Democrats and Republicans appear to be no closer to resolving a feud that shut down much of the US government. It's limped into the third day of the shutdown, with both sides digging in on the healthcare dispute that triggered it. The shutdown is keeping hundreds of thousands of federal workers home and disrupting scores of government programs. Professor of International Relations Robert Patman is here to tell us what's going on. Good evening.
Good evening, Rebecca.
Where do things stand this evening?
Precariously placed. As your comments suggested, we're about the fourth day into this shutdown, and there doesn't seem to be any signs it's going to be speedily resolved. And 800,000 people are currently laid off. It's a partial shutdown. There's still 2/3 of the federal workforce staying in place, but non-essential services have essentially been cut. And at the moment, there doesn't seem to be any sign of resolution. Mr. Obama's taking quite a hard line. From the Obama camp's point of view, the Republicans have made an outrageous demand that they've only agreed to extend funding in the next budget if the government, the Obama administration, basically essentially scraps what's called Obamacare. This was a measure which was approved by it was constitutionally approved by the US Supreme Court in 2012 and then passed and then endorsed in the presidential election. And the Republicans are demanding that it be withdrawn, and then they will fund the budget. And from Mr. Obama's point of view, this is totally, he sees it as unconstitutional, and he believes it's also a threat by the minority against the majority, so he's not having a bar of it at the moment.
What are the possible outcomes?
At the moment, one side giving in, which is that Mr. Obama will lose his nerve and then give in. That doesn't look likely at the moment, not least because the Republican stance looks increasingly unpopular with the American people. The other possibility is which the Republicans are trying to do at the moment. They're trying to get a sort of a partial solution, which is a negotiating program by program. Again, Mr. Obama doesn't want that. He wants he wants basically a victory here to end this practice of governing through crisis, where the Republicans believe they can actually blackmail the government of the day into doing this. So it's an interesting situation. It could get a lot worse because there's if this budget situation is not resolved, it could morph into another crisis, because on the 17th of October, America has to basically raise its debt ceiling. America has a debt of $16.7 trillion. After that, if it doesn't raise its debt ceiling, it will default. And if the biggest economy in the world defaults, as Mr. Obama pointed out today, that has implications for every other economy in the world, including New Zealand's.
Well, this isn't the first time there's been a shutdown in the US, is there?
No, it occurred about 18 years ago under Mr. Clinton. But in those days, there was no Tea Party in the Republican Party to polarise the situation. And Newt Gingrich, the then leader of the Republican Party, and Bill Clinton sorted out the situation. But it took 21 days, and it was hugely expensive. So yeah, I mean, there is the precedent of it going on for 21 days. But the big difference this time is it could morph into the whole debt ceiling crisis as well.
Now, you mentioned before that it was becoming increasingly unpopular with the American people. What has been the response from Republican supporters?
I think it's mixed. I think many moderate Republicans are actually appalled at the situation, the centrists. But there is a small lobbying group now, or a fringe group within well, it's more than a fringe group. It's if you like, a really extreme right-wing group called the Tea Party, which grew after Bush's period in office as a reaction to the Bush defeat in 2000. Well, the defeat of the Republican contender John McCain in 2008, and this group basically wants to downsize government and also believes the Obama healthcare problem is a fundamental assault on American liberties. They also believe it's a job killer.
Professor of International Relations Robert Patman, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.